The announcement arrived like a political thunderclap. Donald J. Trump, known for his America First doctrine, was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. The news ignited global debate. Supporters called it overdue recognition, while critics saw it as a debasement of a prestigious honor. The idea of Trump joining laureates like Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King Jr. was, for many, deeply offensive. This polarization reflects a deeper divide over what peace means and how it should be achieved. Some praised Trump's direct engagement with adversaries and Middle East deals as pragmatic breakthroughs. Others condemned his withdrawals from international agreements and harsh rhetoric as undermining the Nobel's ideals. The controversy forced a re-examination of the Nobel Peace Prize itself. Is peace just the absence of conflict, or does it require a commitment to human rights and cooperation? The debate became less about Trump's specific achievements and more about the character and impact of his presidency. Ultimately, Trump's nominations became a case study in how even institutions meant to transcend politics can become battlegrounds for competing worldviews. The uproar reflected a fractured global community, where one person's peacemaker is another's provocateur. This fundamental disagreement set the stage for a contentious chapter in the Nobel Peace Prize's history. Much of the controversy around Trump's Nobel candidacy comes from misunderstanding the selection process. Being nominated is not an endorsement from the Nobel Committee. The committee has no control over who gets nominated. Thousands of politicians, academics, and former laureates worldwide can submit names, making controversial nominations inevitable. The list of nominees is secret for 50 years, but nominators can publicize their choices, turning confidential submissions into headlines. In Trump's case, politicians announced their nominations, using the Nobel brand for political gain. This publicity can create the illusion of official recognition, even when the committee remains silent. The real work begins after the January deadline, when the committee rigorously vets hundreds of candidates. Trump's multiple nominations reflect his supporters' access, not the committee's approval. The annual nominee list includes both respected activists and divisive figures. The true honor lies not in being nominated, but in being selected after careful deliberation. Understanding this distinction is key to separating political theater from the Nobel's actual process. Trump's first major Nobel buzz came in 2018, after his unprecedented summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The historic meeting in Singapore was hailed by supporters as a breakthrough, with Trump becoming the first sitting U.S. president to meet a North Korean leader. The summit produced a joint statement on denuclearization, earning Trump a nomination from Republican lawmakers. Supporters saw this as bold diplomacy, but critics noted the lack of concrete progress. North Korea's nuclear program continued, and human rights were ignored. Some argued that opening dialogue reduced tensions, while others saw it as empty spectacle. The Nobel Committee ultimately did not award Trump, signaling skepticism about the summit's substance. The episode highlighted the divide. Was it visionary peacemaking or a photo op with little result? The answer remains debated, but the committee's silence spoke volumes. Trump's North Korea gambit became a symbol of the larger debate over his foreign policy legacy. Trump's most substantial Nobel case came with the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab nations. The deals bypassed the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, focusing on shared interests and shifting Middle East alliances. Trump's team, led by Jared Kushner, was credited with brokering these agreements, which were hailed as historic by supporters. Nominations cited the accords as a breakthrough, arguing they achieved what decades of diplomacy had not. Critics, especially Palestinian leaders, saw the deals as a betrayal, removing incentives for a two-state solution. The accords were also criticized as transactional. Arms sales and political favors were part of the packages. Analysts questioned whether this was genuine peacemaking or strategic realignment. The Abraham Accords ended formal hostilities, but left core conflicts unresolved, complicating claims of a Nobel-worthy achievement. The debate over their legacy continues, reflecting the complexities of modern diplomacy. While Trump's administration touted peacemaking, its approach to Venezuela told a different story. The U.S. imposed harsh sanctions and backed regime change, aiming to oust President Nicolás Maduro. Critics argued these actions contradicted peaceful diplomacy, causing humanitarian crises and widespread suffering. Sanctions worsened shortages of food and medicine, with reports linking them to thousands of deaths. The administration's rhetoric even hinted at possible military intervention, alarming many in Latin America. This aggressive posture clashed with the Nobel's ideals of non-intervention and peaceful resolution. For many, Trump's Venezuela policy was a clear disqualifier for a peace prize. It exposed the contradictions in his peacemaker image and highlighted the costs of prioritizing American interests over humanitarian concerns. Trump's Nobel nominations sparked condemnation from human rights groups and global analysts. Organizations like Amnesty International pointed to policies, travel bans, family separations, withdrawal from international agreements that they said undermined human rights. Critics argued that peace is inseparable from justice and dignity, values they saw as eroded by Trump's actions. International media questioned the validity of the nominations, highlighting the irony of nominating a leader often at odds with global institutions. For many, the Abraham Accords were isolated successes amid broader diplomatic damage. The dissent reflected a deeper disagreement. Was Trump's presidency about building peace or sowing division? For his critics, the answer was overwhelmingly negative. The Trump Nobel controversy was fueled by misinformation and political spin. Supporters often claimed a nomination was an endorsement, blurring the line between submission and honor. Pro-Trump media exaggerated the impact of the Abraham Accords and North Korea summits, while critics dismissed any positive outcomes. Both sides weaponized the narrative, making it hard to separate fact from spin. Allegations of bias flew in all directions. Some said the Nobel Committee was anti-Trump. Others feared it might cave to political pressure. The reality was more complex. Trump's administration did facilitate diplomatic shifts, but these came with caveats and controversy. The committee's process remained confidential, and claims of shortlisting or ending the Korean War were false. In the end, the Nobel debate became a mirror for broader political polarization. Amid the uproar, the Norwegian Nobel Committee maintained its silence, as required by its statutes. This policy is meant to protect the prize's independence from political pressure and media hype. The committee has a history of controversial choices, awarding dissidents and even sitting presidents, sometimes drawing global criticism. Despite accusations of bias from all sides, the committee's decisions reflect its own interpretation of Alfred Nobel's will. In Trump's case, the committee chose not to award him, instead honoring humanitarian and press freedom efforts. These choices signaled a preference for work addressing fundamental rights over transactional diplomacy. The committee's silence and selections offered an implicit definition of peace, one rooted in humanitarianism and justice. The Trump episode underscored the challenge of remaining above politics in a divided world. The Nobel's legacy depends on its ability to navigate these pressures while upholding its core values. Trump's Nobel saga raises a profound question. Can a global peace prize ever be truly apolitical? The act of awarding the prize is a statement of values, inevitably sparking controversy in a polarized world. The Trump nominations exposed a schism between those who value pragmatic deals and those who see peace as inseparable from justice and human rights. The Nobel Committee's choices reflect this tension, endorsing one vision of peace over another. Social media and misinformation have magnified these divides, making the prize a battleground for competing truths. The committee's silence, meant to protect its integrity, is often misread as bias. Ultimately, the Nobel Peace Prize's relevance may depend on embracing controversy and sparking global conversation about what peace truly means. In a fractured world, perhaps that is its most important role.